What happens when a senator's wife gets caught drunk driving and in the middle of a court hearing? She pulls out her cell phone to call her husband for help. This 45-year-old woman is about to learn a hard truth. Some calls you can't make, some positions don't grant immunity, and some spouses choose integrity over protection. But what makes this case unforgettable isn't just the DUI. It's who she hit, who she left injured, and what her husband said when Judge Caprio put him on speakerphone for the entire courtroom to hear. Tell us where you're watching from, because what unfolds in the next few minutes proves one thing. Political power doesn't buy exemption from accountability. It's a Wednesday afternoon at Providence Municipal Court. Judge Frank Caprio flips through files in a case already attracting public attention. Diana Crawford, 45, wife of Rhode Island State Senator Michael Crawford, is charged with driving under the influence causing property damage, leaving the scene in failure to render aid. The incident happened 9 days earlier at 9:47 p.m. in a busy Providence shopping center parking lot. Security footage tells a story with brutal clarity. Diana Crawford was behind the wheel of her Mercedes SUV when she struck a parked 2015 Honda Accord, smashing the rear quarter panel, bumper, and trunk. The impact was strong enough to trigger the car's alarm and set off the rear collision sensors. The Honda belonged to 67-year-old Robert Martinez, a Vietnam War veteran. At the time, he was inside the adjacent pharmacy, picking up medication for his wife, who lives with MS and has limited mobility. The footage shows Diana stumble from her SUV to inspect the damage. Then, without leaving a note, without calling police, and without checking if anyone was hurt, she climbed back into her car and drove off. A witness recorded her license plate, and police tracked her home 40 minutes later. At 10:32 p.m., her blood alcohol content tested 16, nearly twice the legal limit. Investigators estimate that at the time of the collision, it was likely 20 or higher. When officers arrived at her house to arrest her, her first words were revealing. "Do you know who my husband is?" Her husband, State Senator Michael Crawford, is serving his third term representing Rhode Island's Eastern District, a respected legislator known for his criminal justice work and reputation for bipartisan cooperation. 9 days later, Diana Crawford walks into Judge Caprio's courtroom, dressed impeccably, exuding the confidence of someone who thinks this is a minor misunderstanding that will vanish as quickly as it arrived. Her attorney, Thomas Whitmore, from one of Providence's most politically connected firms, strides beside her, briefcase in hand, carrying the aura of a man certain that money and influence can smooth over any problem. Judge Caprio watches her entrance with the same careful attention he gives every defendant. Diana doesn't move like someone facing serious criminal charges. She moves like she's attending a charity luncheon, expecting applause for showing up. The bailiff calls the case. Caprio reviews the charges, his words deliberate and precise, ensuring they are etched into the public record. Driving under the influence causing property damage, leaving the scene of an accident, failure to render aid. Whitmore immediately requests a sidebar, hoping to discuss sensitive matters given Mrs. Crawford's social standing. Caprio's response is crisp, unwavering. "Mr. Whitmore, this is a public courtroom. All proceedings stay on the record. If your client's conduct can't withstand public scrutiny, that's a problem with the conduct, not the courtroom." Whitmore shifts tactics. He concedes that his client made a lapse in judgment, then launches into a glowing portrayal of her spotless record, her family's civic contributions, and Senator Crawford's legislative achievements. Caprio interrupts sharply. "Mr. Whitmore, your client's husband's legislative record is not evidence in this case. We are here to address what she did, not who she is married to." For viewers, if you haven't hit subscribe yet, do it now, because what happens next will show exactly what unfolds when someone tries to use political power to dodge accountability. Caprio turns to Diana directly. "Do you understand the charges against you?" Diana nods, but her expression says she sees this as nothing more than formality. "Yes, Your Honor, but I think there's been some exaggeration about what actually happened." Exaggeration? Caprio picks up the police report, his gaze firm. "Mrs. Crawford, you struck a parked vehicle while driving with a blood alcohol content of 14. You left the scene without providing information. These are facts, not exaggerations." Diana shifts, discomfort flickering across her face. "The damage wasn't that serious," she says. "And I thought the parking lot was private property, so I didn't realize I needed to report it." Caprio's expression hardens. "Mrs. Crawford, hit-and-run laws apply to all property, public or private, and whether damage is serious is not determined by the person who caused it." Judge Caprio motions to the clerk. "Play the security footage." The courtroom monitor flickers to life. On screen, Diana's Mercedes slams into Robert Martinez's Honda. The impact is unmistakable. The Honda's alarm blares. Diana steps out, surveys the damage for nearly 30 seconds, then climbs back into her SUV and drives away. The footage is damning, crystal clear, no room for excuses. She caused significant damage and fled the scene. Caprio fixes his gaze on Diana. "Do you recognize what's shown here?" "Yes," she says, her voice tentative. I was in shock. I wasn't thinking clearly." "Mrs. Crawford," he responds, voice steady but piercing. "The footage shows you standing there for 30 seconds. 30 seconds is long enough to leave a note, long enough to call the police, long enough to do the right thing." Diana says nothing. The judge then turns to the victim impact statement submitted by Robert Martinez. He recounts returning to his car to find significant damage. No note, no information. He explains that his insurance deductible is $1,000, a substantial sum for him and his wife on a fixed income. He mentions that his wife's wheelchair-accessible van is in the shop, leaving the Honda as her only way to attend medical appointments. The damage isn't just cosmetic. It's a real financial burden for an elderly couple already coping with progressive disability. Caprio asks Diana if she has attempted to contact Mr. Martinez to apologize or offer to cover the costs. Her attorney interjects quickly. "Your Honor, legal counsel has advised against direct contact." Caprio's tone sharpens. "Legal strategy does not excuse moral obligation, Mr. Whitmore. Your client fled the scene, and in 9 days, she has taken no responsibility for the harm she caused." Diana speaks up, her voice edged with defensiveness. "Your Honor, I understand I made a mistake. My family is prepared to pay for the damages. We just want to resolve this quietly and move forward." "Quietly," Caprio repeats, each syllable heavy. "Mrs. Crawford, you want to resolve this quietly because your husband is a state senator. But the Martinez family can't resolve their financial hardship quietly. They live with the consequences of your choices every day, publicly." Diana's jaw tightens. For the first time, frustration replaces the usual air of inconvenience. She's realizing this isn't about her schedule, her status, or her connections. It's about real people suffering the fallout from her actions. Judge Caprio calls Officer Jennifer Santos to the stand. She was the first responder to the scene and later arrested Diana. Officer Santos testifies about arriving at Diana's residence, immediately noticing the strong smell of alcohol. She recalls Diana's initial refusal to take a breathalyzer, only agreeing once informed that refusal would automatically suspend her license. Judge Caprio leans forward. "What was Mrs. Crawford's demeanor during the arrest?" "Dismissive, Your Honor," Santos replies. "She kept asking if we knew who her husband was. She said this was a waste of police resources and that we should focus on real crimes." Caprio nods. "Let's hear the body camera audio from the arrest." Diana's slurred, indignant voice fills the courtroom. "Do you know who my husband is? He's a state senator. You're making a huge mistake. This will be taken care of." The silence that follows is deafening. Every head in the courtroom seems to lean in. Judge Caprio fixes his gaze on Diana. "Mrs. Crawford, that audio was recorded at 10:32 p.m. 45 minutes after you struck Mr. Martinez's vehicle and drove away. Instead of taking responsibility, you threatened police officers with your husband's position." Diana tries to explain. "I was stressed. I said things I didn't mean." "You said exactly what you meant, Mrs. Crawford." Caprio interrupts, voice sharp. "You expected your husband's position to make your criminal behavior disappear." And then she makes a catastrophic mistake. In full view of the courtroom, Diana pulls her cell phone from her purse and starts dialing. Caprio's voice cuts through the room like steel. "Mrs. Crawford, what are you doing?" "I'm calling my husband. She says, a note of defiance in her voice. He can explain this better than I can. The courtroom collectively holds its breath. Did she just try to call her husband in the middle of her hearing? Mrs. Crawford, put that phone away immediately. Caprio orders. Diana continues, holding the phone to her ear. He's the one who deals with legal matters. He'll know what to say. Caprio's tone drops to ice. Mrs. Crawford, you are standing in my courtroom, facing criminal charges, and you just attempted to call your husband for help during proceedings. That is contempt of court. Finally, Diana lowers the phone, but the damage is done. She has publicly demonstrated that she believes her husband's position can fix anything, even active criminal proceedings. Judge Caprio makes a decision that will go down in Rhode Island legal history. Bailiff, retrieve Mrs. Crawford's phone. Mrs. Crawford, you called your husband. I'm going to give you what you wanted. We're going to talk to Senator Crawford right now. Diana's face drains of color. This isn't the rescue she imagined. Caprio instructs the clerk to contact Senator Crawford's office. Within minutes, the call is connected. Caprio puts it on speakerphone for the entire courtroom. Senator Crawford, he begins, voice firm. This is Judge Frank Caprio in Providence Municipal Court. Your wife is here for a hearing regarding DUI charges, and she just attempted to call you in the middle of proceedings. I am putting you on speaker so we can address this publicly. There's a brief pause. Then Senator Michael Crawford's voice fills the courtroom, steady, measured, but heavy with emotion. Your Honor, I apologize for my wife's behavior. She had no right to call me during court proceedings. Diana opens her mouth to speak, but Caprio raises a hand, silencing her. Senator Crawford continues. Your Honor, I need to say something for the record. I've been aware of the charges against my wife since the night of her arrest. I've advised her to take full responsibility, to apologize to Mr. Martinez, and to accept whatever consequences the court deems appropriate. Diana's eyes widen in disbelief. This isn't the supportive rescue she expected. Caprio leans forward. Senator Crawford, are you asking this court to show leniency to your wife because of your position? The answer comes like a thunderclap, and Diana physically staggers. No, Your Honor. I'm asking you to treat her exactly as you would any other defendant. Her actions were wrong. The fact that she is married to a state senator does not excuse drunk driving, property damage, or leaving an elderly veteran to face the consequences alone. Diana whispers urgently, almost pleading, Michael, what are you doing? Her husband hears her. Diana, I told you to take responsibility. You chose not to listen. I've spent my career working on criminal justice reform, on accountability, on ensuring the law applies equally. I cannot advocate for those principles publicly and then ask for exemptions privately. Caprio's voice cuts through the tension. Senator, do you have anything else you'd like to say to this court? Senator Crawford's tone grows even more serious, the weight of principle and integrity clear in every word. Yes, Your Honor, Senator Crawford begins, voice steady but heavy with emotion. Robert Martinez is a Vietnam War veteran. My father served in Vietnam. The fact that my wife hit Mr. Martinez's car and drove away, leaving to deal with the damage alone, is deeply shameful. Mr. Martinez served this country. He deserves respect, not hit-and-run treatment from someone who then threatens police with her husband's political position. The courtroom falls utterly silent. Diana sits at the defendant's table, tears streaming down her face, not from remorse, but from shock and panic. Your Honor, the senator continues, whatever sentence you determine is appropriate, you have my full support. My wife needs to understand that her last name doesn't grant immunity. If this were any other defendant, I would expect full accountability. I expect the same from her. Caprio nods and thanks the senator. The call ends. Diana is left standing alone, completely exposed. Her expected rescue has transformed into public accountability. Judge Caprio's voice is calm but firm. Mrs. Crawford, your husband, the man you try to call for help in the middle of these proceedings, has instructed me to treat you like any other defendant. Let's do exactly that. He reviews the evidence systematically. Security footage confirms she struck Mr. Martinez's vehicle. Body camera audio proves she threatened officers using her husband's position. Her 14 BAC proves she was significantly intoxicated. Her attempt to call her husband in court proves she still believes political connections can erase accountability. The sentence is delivered with precision. Driving under the influence, $1,000 fine, mandatory alcohol education program, 1-year license suspension. Leaving the scene of an accident, $500 fine, 80 hours of community service at a veteran support organization. Failure to render aid and contempt of court for attempting to use a phone during proceedings, $250 plus $500. Total monetary penalties, $2,250. But Caprio isn't finished. Full restitution to Robert Martinez for vehicle repairs for $1,300 plus is $1,000 deductible. Total restitution, $5,300. Formal letters of apology to Mr. Martinez and Officer Santos to be reviewed by the court before delivery. Completion of 80 hours of community service specifically assisting elderly veterans, driving them to medical appointments, helping navigate VA services, the very kind of support Mr. Martinez needed when his car was damaged. Diana's world, once insulated by wealth and connections, suddenly collides with the consequences of real-life accountability. The total financial impact of Diana's actions, $7,550 plus attorney fees. Total time commitment, 80 hours of community service plus mandatory alcohol education. Total consequence, 1 year without a license and a permanent record contempt for trying to call her husband in court. Diana's attorney objects, calling the sentence excessive. Judge Caprio's gaze silences him instantly. Mr. Whitmore, your client drove drunk, caused significant property damage, fled the scene, threatened police officers, and then tried to call her husband in the middle of court proceedings. Every consequence she faces is proportional to her choices. As Diana is processed out, she passes Robert Martinez, sitting quietly in the gallery throughout the hearing. She doesn't acknowledge him. She doesn't apologize. She walks past as if he were invisible. Mr. Martinez rises. Your Honor, may I say something? Of course, Mr. Martinez. Caprio replies. I'm 67 years old. I served in Vietnam. I've never asked for special treatment, but I also didn't expect to be treated like I didn't matter. Mrs. Crawford hit my car and drove away like I was nobody. You just showed me that in your courtroom, I'm somebody. Thank you. Judge Caprio nods, visibly moved. Mr. Martinez, you've always been somebody. This court just made sure Mrs. Crawford learned that. Within hours, the story explodes across Rhode Island. News outlets replay the audio of Diana calling her husband in court. Social media buzzes with Senator Crawford's statement supporting full accountability. 2 days later, Senator Crawford holds a press conference. Heads up, Rhode Island. My wife's behavior was unacceptable. Her refusal to take responsibility is unacceptable. I've spent my career fighting for accountability in our justice system. I cannot maintain that integrity while staying married to someone who believes political connections can erase criminal behavior. The announcement signals the end. Diana and Senator Crawford begin separating. A divorce finalized within 6 months. The consequences of privilege, accountability, and integrity have reshaped the family and sent a clear message. Justice applies to everyone. Senator Crawford's approval ratings actually climb. Voters respect his integrity, his willingness to choose principles over personal comfort. 3 weeks after sentencing, Diana begins her community service, driving elderly veterans to medical appointments. Week 1, she's silent, resentful. Week 5, she starts listening to their stories. By week 12, she's genuinely engaged, asking about their service, understanding their sacrifices. One veteran, Thomas Kim, tells her about serving in Vietnam with a man named Martinez. Diana's heart stops. Is it Robert Martinez? She asks. It is. They served together. Diana breaks down. For the first time since the incident, she understands the gravity of her actions. She didn't just hit a car. She disrespected a man who served his country, who sacrificed for people like her, who deserve far better. She completes her 80 hours, writes genuine apology letters accepted by the court, and finishes her alcohol education program. 6 months later, she requests a meeting with Robert Martinez. At a coffee shop, face to face, she apologizes. Mr. Martinez, I hit your car and drove away like you didn't matter. I threatened police with my husband's position. I tried to call him in court to fix it. I was wrong about all of it. I'm sorry. Robert listens, then says something that shifts Diana's perspective forever. Mrs. Crawford, I forgive you, but understand this. I didn't serve this country, so people like you could get special privileges. I served so everyone could be equal under the law. Judge Caprio reminded you of that. Don't forget it again. 1 year after her sentencing, Diana has completed all requirements. Her license is reinstated. Her divorce is final. Her life has changed entirely. She continues volunteering at the Veterans Organization beyond her required hours. She has learned a lesson her political connections never taught her. Respect isn't inherited through marriage. It's earned through conduct. Don't forget to subscribe for more incredible courtroom moments where political power meets accountability. And judges like Frank Caprio prove that no position, no matter how powerful, places anyone above the law. Hit that like button if you believe calling your husband in the middle of court proceedings reveals entitled thinking. Drop a comment. Did Senator Crawford make the right choice divorcing his wife? Because this story isn't just about one drunk driver facing justice. It's about understanding that political marriages don't grant immunity. Phone calls can't erase accountability. And some senators value integrity over protecting spouses who break the law. Diana Crawford walked into court thinking her husband's position would save her. She called him in the middle of a hearing, expecting rescue. Instead, she heard him tell the judge to treat her like anyone else. That phone call, the one she thought would fix everything, became the moment that changed her life forever. That's justice. That's integrity. That's the legacy of Judge Frank Caprio.